All right, hey everybody, welcome to beautiful Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr., and this is another edition of From the Arena. This is an Inside Sports production. Before we begin, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor, thepuckshopshere.com. Discount hockey gear available online. Already have the best prices, but if you enter the promo code Inside Sports upon checkout, you'll also receive an additional 10% discount and, of course, free shipping on all orders over $75. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm Charles, and the distinguished gentleman sitting to my right here is my very special guest from Puck Podcast, Eddie Garcia. I'll tell you what, Eddie, I probably can't do you justice with the intro I was going to give you, so go ahead and let everybody know just who Eddie is. What is a Puck Podcast? Probably has something to do with hockey. I don't know, but
I hope so. No, it's a podcast that my partner Doug Stolhand and I have been doing for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. We've been named the #1 hockey podcast on the internet by a couple of different places. We've been doing it for 5 years, like I said, every week through the regular season, postseason, and during the off season. So if you want to talk hockey, or you want to hear a couple of guys who hope that they're knowledgeable talk about hockey, you can go to our website, puckpodcast.com, or look for us on iTunes, Puck Podcast. So having a lot of fun, talking about the great sport of hockey, trying to promote it as much as we can.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, as a Kings fan, up here in the press box with you, seeing a pretty amazing playoff run by this team right now.
Fantastic. Now, you know what? We'll be right back in just a moment. Just correct a technical difficulty here. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Staples Center, Charles E. Smith Jr., my very special guest, Eddie Garcia from Puck Podcast. That's puckpodcast.com.
That's
everything
the website,
you ever
yep.
wanted to know about hockey and more.
Hopefully, yeah.
From yourself and Doug Stolhand, or as I like to call him, Salty Doug.
He's a little sarcastic from time to time.
Sarcastic, cynical, or sardonic? Which is it?
All three wrapped into
like a
one,
Tootsie Roll.
much.
All the good things rolled into one.
I'm the nice, sweet one, and he's the slightly bitter one.
Aha, I get it. All right. Well, nobody's bitter here today in downtown L.A. The Los Angeles Kings. They first take out the #1 seeded Vancouver Canucks in 5 games, and then they just steamrolled the St. Louis Blues in 4 games here. That just happened out here, right behind us, where they're now playing a rec hockey game.
Yeah.
On this historic day, because they have finally completed a sweep in the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Talk to me.
Yeah, as like I said, I'm a Kings fan first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be impartial and give my honest opinions and not be too biased. But
definitely,
when you see what's going on here in Los Angeles, it's one of the great things about sports. I mean, you've got a team that was seeded 8th. Had a lot of expectations, obviously, going into the year. But, a lot of people not really sure what to expect in the playoffs, and now they are finally putting it all together. They really haven't done anything wrong to speak of in this playoffs. Nothing's gone wrong for them. They're healthy. They're getting contributions from everyone. It's really an unbelievable story so far. Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Nolan scores today.
Yeah.
On the same day that his daddy gets a victory while coaching Latvia in the World Championships.
Right. A guy that most Kings fans going into the year probably had no idea who he was. Really.
Exactly. And Dwight King scored in Game 3 as well. Not to mention, I believe Matt Green has points in all 4 games against St. Louis.
Yeah.
And Greener, I think, had 14 points all year long.
Yeah. I love how he's constantly said when asked about it. They're all accidents. It's nothing that should happen. But you're right.
Maybe he's big time Matty Green.
Well, if he keeps doing this, maybe he is. But it's just everyone's contributing. There's no one. Well, Dustin Brown's playing some pretty good hockey. Their captain right now.
Yeah.
He's leading by example. Coming up with not only timely goals but big hits, and really it's just great to see a guy who kind of epitomizes everything that's good about the sport of hockey. Just
exactly
all around hard-working, hard-hitting, humble. but do everything and anything he can for the team. It's great to see his success individually, and the rest of the team just kind of following him right now.
Right, and him taking on Backus, really taking a head up in Game 3 and rendering him a non-factor in that game. And then you see this game where the Blues, even though the Kings only had, I think they had 3 shots in the second period, and then 7 in the third. I think they were even at 7 in the third, but still, you never really got the sense that St. Louis was gonna take over the game. They had chances where the Kings weren't getting a lot of shots, but still the Kings were kind of keeping their shots to the perimeter as well.
Right. There were a few surges here and there, but nothing really where you thought the game was getting out of control or that St. Louis was really taking over the total momentum. Again, they had some surges in the third. I think the Kings holding on a little bit, but you also got the sense because of who's in net for LA, Jonathan Quick, that it was really going to be an uphill battle for St. Louis. They knew it. They knew that for them to score goals, it was going to take a perfect shot, which is what they had in the first period. They had a perfect shot to score the goal.
The one that beat Jonathan Quick.
Right.
But other than that, Quick, he just, the net it has been shut down.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and let the rest of the NHL know that John Quick has shut down the net out here in L.A.
Yeah, and if anybody's been paying attention, he's been doing it all season. If there's been one constant for the Kings all year long, it's been his performance in net, doing it with very little offense at times, knowing that he has to be almost perfect on a given night. If he gives up 2 goals, they're going to lose.
Exactly.
There's no margin for error.
Midway through the season.
Yeah,
exactly.
And now he's carried that mentality over into the playoffs. He's still a very young goaltender, but, I mean, just the things that he's doing, he is legitimate. I mean, I think Kings fans, Kings fans are a little bit pessimistic. We know that the success hasn't been there. I mean, this is only the second time in franchise history that they've made it out of the second round. So I think a lot of Kings fans are, they're hesitant to maybe anoint someone as legit. But Jonathan Quick he's legit. He's a franchise goalie. He's not a flash in the pan. He's a guy who will mind that net for years to come. And, obviously he's got to prove it down the line. But other than Rogie Vachon, I mean, you can see this guy as being, at this point, even right now, the second greatest goalie the Kings have ever had.
Correct. Right. I think, we want to put him. You put him ahead of Kelly Hrudey right now?
I do.
Right now?
I do. I actually do.
All right. Perfect. And this run really will kind of solidify that because Quick has been the one constant. Even when you talk to him after the games, it's still. Oh. And he said he had his couple minutes of happy. So by the time we get into the locker room to talk to him, he's already focused. That game is behind him. You've got that game. It's already done. You cannot replay that game even though it was a win. So he's just got to focus on the very next game. And that's one thing I've always liked about him, even though it makes him a tough interview at times. Yeah. But still, the kid is just focused. And that's what he says. If you were to ask him right now, he would say, we haven't accomplished anything yet.
And, it is true. I mean, for all the great things they've done, they're halfway to the Stanley Cup, which just goes to show you
8 out of 16 wins.
How difficult a road it is for teams to have to go to lift that cup. And it's what makes it, in my opinion, the most difficult championship to win in all pro sports. And the most, I think, when you talk about it from a fan's perspective, just, in football, for example, you get hot at the right time, you win 4 games, and suddenly you're a champion. In hockey, you don't, 4 games is 1 series.
Right.
I mean, so it's really, it's an amazing accomplishment. And again, they're just halfway there, but it's been amazing the way they played so far.
Fantastic. You were down there in the room just now after the win, after the sweep, and what was the overall mood of the room? Was it like a little bit joyous, but a little bit of the we haven't done anything yet? What was the feel down there?
I was a little bit surprised, and how hockey players are.
Yeah.
That there was a little bit of celebrating. I thought Dustin Brown. He said, "Look, we're excited, we're happy, and we have accomplished something, and yet." At the same time, we're only halfway there. So, and Daryl Sutter, the head coach, said something afterwards that I thought was very nice because everybody thinks Daryl Sutter is kind of a joyless kind of a guy, but he said, appreciate what you've accomplished while still understanding what you've got to do ahead. So, in other words, there's nothing wrong with feeling good about what you're doing. As a matter of fact, it's kind of silly not to. I mean,
you can pat yourself on the back,
exactly.
But still.
But at the same time, understand the big picture. So, I think Dustin Brown was joking how Andrei Kopitar jumped on him after the game, and he says, I think that Kopi sometimes forgets how big he really is, and got a good laugh out of it. But they were definitely happy. No popping of champagne, obviously, or anything
Right, yes.
extreme.
Not even sparkling cider.
There was definitely smiling.
Yeah.
And there was definitely some laughter, and I think they deserve that. But they also know, again, halfway.
And who'd ever thunk it? The Kings are going to play in the Western Conference Championship, but now they're going to sit and wait for the winner to see who wins between Phoenix and Nashville to see who they're going to face. But the Kings playing a little bit of waiting game. But you know what? The best part is, after the second round of Stanley Cup playoffs, there will be more hockey right here in Staples Center. We'll be here for all of it.
Yeah, it's great, and being a hockey fan in Southern California, you just hope that this can grow the sport. I mean, I was around in '93, and I know that it had a huge impact on me becoming a hockey fan. So now, if you look at the bigger picture, it would be great to see this carry over to the next generation of fans and get them energized.
I think it can because of the makeup of this team now. Because what happened in '93 was, yes, they did go to the final, but do you remember the fall after that of the team?
Yes.
I mean, it was into the depths of despair and wound up with Wayne Gretzky playing in St. Louis and
they weren't able to
sustain Bruce McNall going to jail.
Yeah.
There was
no, there's no doubt. They weren't able to sustain it. It was a great bump, but they couldn't carry it forward. You would think with this team, with the guys they've got locked up for many years to come, Doughty, Kopitar, Brown, etc., that it's more sustainable at this point. The team's healthier. You mentioned McNall. I mean, nobody saw that coming.
Right.
Your owner goes to jail. That's obviously not a good thing. But no, I think it's something that's great. I mean, look, you and I are here all season long, and we know what the media presence is like during the year. Now it's obviously ramped up, and understandably so. But you've got all the local, network affiliates are here now, and everyone wants to be a part of this now and kind of jump on it. And that's great. I mean, you want as much exposure as you can for the team, for the sport. And again, this ride hopefully has got a long way to go, but it's so far it's been great, and it is good for the Kings, and it's good for the sport of hockey.
Definitely. Well, this particular ride is going to have to be over between you and I, because I've got my man waiting there on deck, Gan Matsuda from Frozen Royalty. So go ahead and just a few more words for Puck Podcast, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me as a guest. Really appreciate it. Again, it's puckpodcast.com is the website, and if you want to go to iTunes and find our podcast, it's every week. It's every weekend throughout the entire year. During the season and off season as well, which a lot of things shut down in the off season, but not us. So it's again puckpodcast.com, and you can go to iTunes and search for Puck Podcast.
All right, fantastic. So everybody, thanks for watching. We'll be right back after this with Gan Matsuda. Hey everybody, welcome back to From the Arena. My very special guest now is none other than Gan Matsuda of FrozenRoyalty.net. And you can also follow Gan if you'd like more punishment at Frozen Royalty. So without further ado, here he is, the man right here, Mr. Gan Matsuda. You were here for every single game. You know what? Just tell the fans a little something about Gan, where they can find you, why they should follow you, and, a little bit ofGanism. Ganosity.
You sure you want to go there?
Be Ganorific.
Now you're trying to scare me, Charles. Then again, he should probably scare all of you folks. You guys don't know Charles. Well, basically been covering the Kings about as long as you have.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good thing anymore.
It is. Well, we started when we were 15, so it's okay.
Dude, you didn't go there, did you?
Yes, I did. All right. We're going to get
Now
the
that we got
stats
that
in
out of the
this game. Yeah. All right, frozenroyalty.net. So, and Gann is my, I get a little bit energetic and, in supporting things, seeing the run and everything like that. But Gann, he keeps an even keel. Let's just say this. Gann will get on the bandwagon, but he's going to be the last guy on. He's going to be running behind the bandwagon, people reaching out their hands saying, come on, Gann, get on, get on, get on. Gann, this was a sweep.
No question.
They took down the Vancouver Canucks in 5 games.
That's right.
The President's Cup winners. They take down the number 2 St. Louis Blues in 4 games. A sweep. The first sweep in team history.
That's right.
Talk to me, man. How are you feeling about this Kings team? Even you got to be excited, man.
Well, as you know, Charles, as I love needling Bob Miller about, I started watching the team in 1973 when I was 10 years old, and Bob was in his first season announcing Kings hockey. Love telling him that because he always tells me to shut up because he's making him feel old. But on that note, as a fan, starting as a fan as I have deep down, it's incredibly exciting. This team hasn't played this well, hasn't played with this much confidence, and playing as well as a team in who knows how long.
Right.
Maybe going back to the 93 team. Although I think that team in some ways was a little bit of a fluke, even with Wayne Gretzky on it.
Well, I think you can look at that team, like I discussed with Eddie beforehand, when you look at that team making that run to the final and look at what happened after that.
Right.
I mean, the fall was just horrendous.
Well, a lot of that has to do with ownership.
Which
you
right.
mentioned with Eddie.
When your owner goes to jail and stuff like that. Yeah, I know. But it wasn't.
What, $236 million?
And well, let's not get. That's a whole show on its own.
Right.
But this team, what I like about it is they've got these guys together. They're playing as well as they are. But when you look at the team, the makeup, and you look 4, 5, 6 years down the road, you can see them actually being competitive, as opposed to a team where a lot of times you see the teams in the past with like 93 team, like 2001 maybe,
right,
where you see them reaching critical mass and you think, all right, we've got 2 seasons where we can possibly do something. Other than that, it's drop back to the drawing board.
Well, as we've talked about many times, this franchise, I should say, if you go back to the Jack Kent Cook days, they always traded away their first-round draft picks for, at what he thought was proven talent. The problem was always over the hill. They traded away picks that turned out to be like Raymond Bourque and all these.
Anders Hawkinson was proven talent.
Well, what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the whole point is, they could have had Tom Barrasso on this team. They could have had a bunch of other guys. But the point is, they always traded away the draft picks, so they never ever built this team from the ground up so that it could win consistently.
Right.
It's kind of funny to say this now, but a lot of people who have been critics of Dean Lombardi got to be eating crow now because it's been 5 years. Yeah, he's had to take a lot of credit, or a lot of criticism, I should say. But now you got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
His vision was to build this team up from the ground up. This team has never rebuilt, never in its history.
Right. That's true.
Despite giving lip service to it.
Yes.
Or going halfway and then stopping because they wanted to put butts in the seats.
Preach on, brother.
But the whole point is now, as you just said, not only do they have talent, but they've got draft picks. They got talent coming up to the ranks
for the foreseeable future.
To keep the machine running.
Right.
That's the way you have to build a team in the NHL now, especially with the salary cap and parity.
So it finally changed the culture, really, around here.
Right. And you can feel it. We're around the team. Whether it's in the practice, in the dressing room practice or after games, this team has a camaraderie that I have never seen in all the years I've been covering the Kings.
Right.
And this goes back to the days when Larry Robinson was coaching in the Forum. Okay. I haven't felt that. I haven't sensed that. But you get that sense now.
Right.
Dean Lombardi's always talked about guys that wear the logo on their chest even when they're not wearing the jersey, that they bleed the Kings colors.
Yes.
He's got that team now. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Well, when you look at the way the team was built before, it was because you had a couple of guys here who were they're in town for a cup of coffee.
Right.
And then they were just moving on or retiring or like Valerie Bure, never actually going to play but only play in the alumni games. You never know.
Let's not go there.
But yeah, let's talk about this. So you look at this series. The Kings, they beat the St. Louis Blues, beat them 4 games to none. Completely, to me, shut them down, even though there were periods like the second period, I think they had 2 shots or 3 shots on goal. Then they were even at 7 in the third period. But even in that second period, when the thing was about the series, even when the Kings were not getting shots, though, you got the feeling that they knew. And when you got Jonathan Quick in net, just keep the Blues to the perimeter.
Right.
Get him a good look at every single shot,
Right.
and he's gonna stop them all.
The only problem with the second period was, the Blues did get their chances. They were able to get the puck around the net, much more so than they had. The problem, though, is as great as they played, and they were dominant in the second period, but they had nothing to show for it.
Right.
And that had to be the ultimate frustration for them. That had to get into their minds a little bit, and I think that showed a little bit in the third when the Kings kind of
I think the turning point in the third period, that was when Dustin Brown took the penalty for slashing.
Right.
And then at the whistle, you have D'Agostini going brain dead.
Yeah.
And taking what was that, a roughing call or a boarding call?
Boarding call.
Boarding call to even it up.
Right.
Here they are. It's a 1-goal game.
Right.
And you finally get Dustin Brown, who's been irritating the heck out of you guys, off the ice for 2 minutes, and they have nothing better to do than go ahead and even it up.
Well, here's the thing, and Kings fans will remember this kind of talk. Sitting in the post-game press conference with Ken Hitchcock, Blues head coach, he talked about his team being inexperienced and having to learn about discipline and not taking those kinds of penalties, which
Right.
they did the whole series.
Now, he talked about that this time. I know he
Yes.
did after Game 3
He
as
was
well.
even more pointed about it this time.
Okay.
That his team didn't handle that kind of pressure, those heated situations well.
Okay.
And that they needed to learn how to do that. They need to go through it to learn it. And I'll tell you, as soon as he said that, I said, wow, that's stuff we've been hearing for the last few years here.
Right.
Covering the Kings.
Well, that's
And-
what they said about, the Kings, and you look at the road to this point. It was a couple of years ago, it was losing to Vancouver in
Right.
6 games. Then last year, it was losing to the Sharks in 6 games. Then you have that coming forward, all those little things that you learn, that experience,
Right.
you take forward, and now things start to come together.
Right.
And when you talk about things coming together, I mean, Jonathan Quick's brilliance aside, but Dustin Brown, he's always been a hard-nosed hockey player who gives 110% on every shift. But something is going on out there with
Right.
Dustin Brown.
Right.
In the playoffs now, he's got 6 goals. He had 2 goals in this game. If you remember against Vancouver, he had 2 shorthanded goals in the same game. So he's just a force.
Well, there's no question about it. I think, and a lot of people point to the trade deadline and the rumors about him being traded. I'm not so sure that was the ultimate motivator for him. I think, and a lot of this also goes to the criticism he gets about being a lousy captain. And a lot of people equate, being the loud voice.
That was what you said.
Well, there's
I
a
didn't
lot
say
of-
that.
No, I'm not saying you, but he gets a lot of criticism.
I know,
There's
I know.
A lot of
Yes.
even media about he doesn't fight that much. He is not the fiery in your face rah type.
Right.
Well, quite honestly, that's a load of crap. Because there's a lot of people who make that mistake about that being a requirement of leadership, and quite frankly, it's not. It has
Right.
absolutely nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
And-
Exactly. Go ahead.
Dustin Brown is by far the best person to be the captain of this team, and he's just adding to it now with what he's doing on the ice.
Absolutely. And then we get the contributions, not just the Dustin Browns, Andrei Kopitar, Justin Williams, Mike Richards of the world. But when we look down the line, though, it's just the scoring. This has been so spread out.
Right.
Jordan Nolan getting a goal this
Yeah.
game, Dwight King getting a goal last
getting
game.
contributions
I think
from
Matt
everybody.
Green with a point in every game, I believe.
Every
yeah.
game.
Matt Green doesn't get points in
Well, as
many
as
games.
he put it yesterday, quote, that's an accident. That's Matt Green.
All right, there we go. So, but and Dustin Brown talked about that too, was we're not going to be a team that can win relying on just the scoring from the top guys. They're going to have the scoring, that secondary scoring, all the way down the list. So,
Right. Well, if you notice, going back to the Vancouver series, it wasn't just the top 6 guys getting the job
Right.
done. The Kings' bottom 6, I hate to use that term.
well,
But
hey, everybody knows where they are on
Right.
the
But
food
but
chain.
the third and
Yes,
fourth line,
right?
they totally outperformed the Canucks in that series. And I think we
Yes.
saw it again in this series. It wasn't just the Kings' best players overwhelming the Blues' best players,
Right.
but the third and fourth lines did it as well. Look at Penner. What, I think 3 points in this series?
Yeah.
Maybe 4. I think it might have been 4. I don't remember off the top of my head, but he had a big
And
assist tonight.
and he fed Carter with a
Right.
beauty down the slot,
Right,
which
right.
Carter, I don't know how he
And it's-
mishandled
yeah,
that.
And
but
it's
yeah.
not just. And if you look at Penner, as malign as he has been all year, he's come on in the last month of the regular season and in the playoffs. He's been one of the Kings' best forwards. And
Yeah.
he's not just doing it in the offensive zone. He's getting it done on the back check through the neutral zone, and he's playing defense.
He is.
He's contributing in all 3 zones, and that's to those of us who've watched him all year. It's amazing. But
Yeah.
it's another reason why this team has succeeded so far in the postseason.
And that was one thing I said when I was breaking down this series to start. I mean, we both picked them to beat Vancouver in the first round.
Right.
We did. It's in print somewhere. You can find it.
I picked them in 6.
And
they betted that.
And how did you pick them in this round? Did
I
you
actually thought this would go 7 games.
Really? Okay. All right. So I picked this one in 6. But the reason I said was, when you look at it, there was, to me, no way that the Blues were going to win this series because if they decided to go with the tight checking game, the Kings were better at that. And if they decided to open it up and say our best 6 against your best 6, they were going to be dead there as well.
I thought this series would go 7 with the Kings taking it because a little better offensively.
Right.
But these are two of the best defensive, well, supposedly, two of the best defensive teams in the league. St. Louis didn't look like it in this series, quite honestly.
And Elliott was kind of human in this. He was,
But you know something? Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
But even that's the Browns game winner, the second goal, that was a great shot. I mean, he shot that right through Pietrangelo's legs, and Elliott didn't see it till it was past him.
Yeah.
But the point is, you look at, was it the last game where, I don't remember off the top, but first period, the Blues had an escort service right to the front of their net.
Yeah.
And that's happened more often than not in this series. That's not Elliott's fault.
Right. I agree. I agree.
He didn't get a lot of help from his.
Yeah.
Even the first goal, what lousy horrendous turnover by the Blues in front of their net. Teams are going to capitalize on those.
It seemed like the Blues were a little bit, when we talk about being a young team, a little bit overwhelmed. I thought what the Kings did to them in this series, I thought that was what, I did pick the Sharks to beat the Blues in the first series. I thought the Sharks would do a similar thing as to what the Kings did to them.
Well,
but
the
they
Sharks have no character.
I know that now. I know that. I had suspected it, but now I know it
You
for
need to
sure.
talk to us more on the other end of the dark side of the press box. But getting back to your point about the Blues being a young team, not handling things well. Hitch mentioned this to us in his press conference as well, and he talked about the Kings. He gave them some of the highest praise I've heard an opposing coach give them.
Yeah.
In that they make you play very, very uncomfortably in the offensive zone. I'm paraphrasing now.
Right.
Because of the way they play defense, but also that applies to the forecheck as well, because their forecheck was relentless against the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of trouble getting out of their own end, and that showed on the Kings' first goal, because if I recall, it was Penner knocking that guy off the puck,
Yeah.
creating that turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Blues just mentally they were hesitant
Right.
in a lot of ways. I think they were tentative. Same thing. I'm being redundant now, but the whole point is the Kings just gave them fits in a lot of ways.
And do you think maybe at a certain point, honestly, it's the Kings just kind of made them say, "Uncle"? That's what it comes down to. And plus, remember too, trying to get out of that 3-0 hole.
Yeah.
Once you're down 3-0, you're like that secret agent who's been captured, but you have that cyanide capsule in the back of your mouth, and you know that you can either fight your way out of it or you can just bite down on that cyanide capsule and be done with it.
Are you speaking from personal experience here?
Yeah, I fought my way out.
Okay.
I keep my cyanide capsule with me.
You're beginning to scare me again, Charles. No, but seriously, with the Kings, as great as they play, you have to also look at the Blues and their faults in this series, their weaknesses. They were fantastic against San Jose, but San Jose is a mentally weak team.
Yes.
Very mentally weak. And it used to be, we could say that about the Kings, but they have not showed that this postseason. In fact,
Right.
they haven't shown that in the last 2 months.
Well, San Jose, I was thinking what they should do maybe, just not do too huge a shakeup. They should just call the Vancouver Canucks and just swap straight across Ryan Kessler for Patrick Marleau, call it a day, and just go into next season. That's
I'm
it.
not so sure that makes a whole lot of difference, given whether Kessler's gone downhill since over the last couple of seasons.
He has, yes, absolutely. But that, again, that's a
another
whole nother show.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we're just about out of time here, but we will be back. There will be more hockey. There will be third-round hockey. There will be conference final hockey from Staples Center. Again,
Right.
there will be conference
I know.
final hockey
Isn't
from
that amazing?
Staples Center.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, I can actually, I can't set the calendar yet because I don't know when the games
True.
are, but I can count on it.
Yeah.
Not might be, not should be, will be.
Well, think of it this way, Charles. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we've covered a second-round series here. The first time we've covered a conference final series here.
Well, I think we did second round in 2001, right?
Well,
2001.
you got to. I didn't get to, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I said we, not you.
Oh, okay. I'm just so narcissistic. I just only think of myself.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I should have known. Yeah. What was I thinking?
All right, everybody. So Charles E. Smith Jr. here. This is Mr. Gan Matsuda of FrozenRoyalty.net. And remember, this is Inside Sports. We are changing the world one sport at a time. You can follow us on Twitter at The Inside Sports. And let me go ahead and take this time to thank our sponsor, thepuckshopshere.com. Discount hockey gear available online. Free shipping on all orders over $75. And, of course, that 10% discount when you use the promo code Inside Sports upon checkout. So, for Mr. Gan Matsuda, the esteemed Mr. Gan Matsuda, I'm Charles E. Smith
Wow,
Jr.
you're really stretching, aren't you, Charles?
Hey, we'll see everybody next time. This is an Inside Sports production of From the Arena.